Hello, everybody. I'm your host George, and welcome back to another episode of Reach into History. Fasten your seatbelts and prepare for wheels up, as today we will be discussing the Gloster Meteor. The development of the turbojet-powered Gloster Meteor was a collaboration between the Gloster Aircraft Company and Frank Whittle's firm, Power Jets Limited. Attracting financial backers and aviation firms prepared to take on Whittle's radical ideas were difficult in the first few years, but in early 1937, the first Whittle prototype jet engine, the Power Jets WU, began running trials. Shortly afterwards, both the Aeronautical Research Committee and the Air Ministry gave the project their support. On the 28th of April 1939, Whittle made a visit to the premises of the Gloster Aircraft Company, where he met several key figures such as Gloster's chief designer, George Carter. Carter took a keen interest in Whittle's project, and in particular was intrigued by the operational Power Jet's W1 engine. Carter quickly made several rough proposals of various aircraft designs that could be powered by the engine. Independently, Whittle had also been producing several proposals for a high-altitude jet-powered bomber, due to the Second World War and the Battle for France causing a greater national emphasis on fighter aircraft. Power Jets and Gloster quickly formed a mutual understanding around mid-1939. In spite of ongoing infighting between Power Jets and several of its stakeholders, the Air Ministry contacted Gloster in late 1939 to manufacture a prototype aircraft powered by one of Whittle's new turbojet engines. The single-engined proof-of-concept Gloster E-28-39, the first British jet-powered aircraft, conducted its maiden flight on the 15th of May 1941. Flown by Gloster's chief test pilot, Flight Lieutenant Philip Jerry Sayer. The success of the E-29-39 proved the viability of jet propulsion, and Gloster pressed ahead with designs for a production fighter aircraft. Due to the limited thrust available from early jet engines, it was decided that subsequent production aircraft would be powered by a pair of turbojet engines. In 1940, the Royal Aircraft Establishment advised that work on an aircraft of 3,900 kilograms all-up weight, with a total static thrust of 14 kilonewtons, should be started, with a 5,000 kilogram design for the expected more powerful W2 and axial engine designs. George Carter's calculations based on the RAE work and his own investigations was that a 3,900 to 4,100 kilogram aircraft with 2 or 4 20mm cannons and 6 0.303 machine guns would have a top speed of 400 to 431 miles per hour, 644 to 694 kilometers an hour at sea level, and 450 to 470 miles per hour at 30,000 feet. The first operational version of the Meteor, designated as the Meteor F1, apart from the minor airframe refinements, was a straightforward militarization of the earlier prototypes. The dimensions of the standard Meteor F1 were 12.57 meters long, with a span of 13.11 meters, with an empty weight of 3,690 kilograms and a maximum takeoff weight of 6,257 kilograms. Despite the revolutionary nature of the turbojet propulsion used, the design of the Meteor was relatively orthodox and did not take advantage of many aerodynamic features used on other later jet fighters, such as swept wings. The Meteor shared a broadly similar basic configuration to its German equivalent, the Messerschmitt Me-262. It was an all-metal aircraft with a tricycle undercarriage and conventional low straight wings, with mid-mounted turbojet engines and a high-mounted tailplane clear of the jet exhaust. The Meteor F1 exhibited some problematic flying characteristics typical of early jet aircraft, such as stability problems at high transonic speeds, large trim changes, high stick forces, and snaking caused by airflow separation over the thick tail surfaces. The longer fuselage of the Meteor T7, a two-seater trainer, significantly reduced the aerodynamic instability that the early Meteors were known for. Later Meteor variants would see a large variety of changes from the initial Meteor F1 introduced into service in 1944. Much attention was given to raising the aircraft's top speed by improving the airframe's aerodynamic qualities, incorporating the latest engine developments, and increasing the airframe's strength. The Meteor F8, which emerged in the late 1940s, was considered to have substantially improved performance over prior variants and was capable of ascending to 40,000 feet within 5 minutes. The Meteor was initially used to counter the V-1 flying bomb threat. 616 Squadron Meteors saw action for the first time on the 27th of July 1944, when 3 aircraft were active over Kent. These were the first operational jet combat missions for the Meteor and for the Royal Air Force. After some problems, the first 2 V-1 kills were made on the 4th of August. After the introduction of the ballistic V-2 rocket, however, the RAF was forbidden to fly the Meteor on combat missions over German-held territory for fear of an aircraft being shot down and salvaged by the Germans. Judging the Meteor F3s were ready for combat over Europe, the RAF finally decided to deploy them on the continent. On the 20th of January 1945, 4 Meteors from 616 Squadron were moved to Melsbroek in Belgium and attached to the 2nd Tactical Air Force. The 616 Squadron's Meteor F3's initial purpose was to provide air defense for the airfield, but their pilots hoped that their presence might provoke the Luftwaffe into sending Me-262 jets against them. At this point, the Meteor pilots were still forbidden to fly over German-occupied territory or to go east of Eindhoven to prevent a downed aircraft being captured by the Germans or the Soviets. In March, the entire squadron was moved to Gilles Region Air Base and then in April to Nijmegen. The Meteors flew armed reconnaissance and ground attack operations without encountering any German jet fighters. By late April, the squadron was based at Pfalzberg. Germany suffered its first losses when 2 aircraft collided in poor visibility. The war ended with the Meteors having destroyed 46 German aircraft through ground attack. Friendly fire through misidentification as Messerschmitt Me-262s by Allied anti-aircraft gunners was more of a threat than the Luftwaffe. To counter this, continental-based Meteors were given an all-white finish to help other British pilots identify the aircraft. In the 1950s, Meteors were developed into effective photo reconnaissance training and night fighter versions. The fighter reconnaissance versions were the first to be built, replacing the aging Spitfires and Mosquitoes then in use. On the 23rd of March 1950, the first FR9 flew. Based on the F8, it was 20 centimeters longer, with a new nose incorporating a remote control camera and window, and was also fitted with additional external ventral and wing fuel tanks. Production of the FR9 began in July. In addition to the armed low-altitude operation tactical FR9 variant, Gloster also developed the PR-10 for high-altitude missions. The first prototype flew on 29th of March 1950 and was actually converted into the first production aircraft. Based on the F4, it had the F4 style tail and the longer wings of the earlier variant. All the cannons were removed and a single camera was placed in the nose with 2 more in the rear fuselage. The canopy was also changed. The PR-10 was delivered to the RAF in December 1950, but was rapidly phased out from 1956 due to rapid improvements in surface-to-air missile technology and the introduction of newer aircraft capable of flying at greater altitudes and speed, rendering the aircraft obsolete. As a small piece of extra information, the reason why I chose to do this video is because very locally to me, in Birmingham, Worcestershire, The Meteor T7WH166 is stored in a private collection which I have been lucky enough to see, and the picture on the slide is actually a picture taken by me. The most surprising thing that I found was the sheer size of this aircraft and how difficult it was to fit the whole thing into a picture. If you are interested in seeing this particular aircraft, then it is on display at the Croom Court National Trust in Worcestershire. Thank you everybody so much for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed this particular video, and excuse some of my pronunciations of Belgian and German territories. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more content, and leave a comment telling me what you'd like to see next time, whether it be another historical event, another historical figure, another vehicle, or something completely different. Also, don't forget to check my Twitter page at reach_history for video updates and more. I hope to see you again soon.